Oh, I see how that works. Once I get the audio working and then it all dies. Okay. Well, we are back on the air. It's a good thing. Wednesday. Uh, Normally a Riverwatch Wednesday. Our friend Dr. Cahoon will not be able to join us this week. He is busy, 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 busy. And we will get with him when he gets back. He'll probably give us an update next week. He's going to try and call in on one of them. He will let us know. Very exciting about that. Safe travels. Hope you're doing well and having fun. Now, very, very depressing is the finding out that Mike Rivenbark, one of Wilmington's premier advocates for arts, director of the Thalian Hall, met him a couple of times, worked with the crew and at his building more than once, and man, that's a big set of shoes to fill. Yeah, that's That's very, very, very sad. Thalian Hall wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for what we have. Once upon a time, here's a fun story, and I have to relate it. I was touring once upon a time across the country, riding around in a Ryder rental truck, and well, if you can believe this, once upon a time, I can't remember where we were. We were in somewhere, Central Plains, I don't know, Hurricane Alley or Tornado Alley area. You know, it's hot as hell. It's July. We got the windows open. We're doing, I don't know, 70 miles an hour, 75, whatever his little truck will do. And I feel something, the windows are down. We're chatting. Chaz and I are chatting. And I feel something on my arm. And from Chastain's point of view, he sees his tech, the second in command of the stage here, and he's having a complete meltdown, spazzing out, seizures, foaming at the mouth, speaking in tongues. He's looking at me like, what? Do I need to find a hospital? What's going on with TK here? Well, it turns out I have lived a very sheltered life. And I'm no entomologist, but I'm not, straight up afraid of bugs or insects, but I am easily startled by things on my body that weren't there a moment ago. And what had happened is apparently some of these grasshoppers have very strong wings. And a grasshopper had decided it wanted to jump on our truck. I happened to be part of the truck as my arm was resting on the windowsill, and they got little claws on their feet. That's right. So when he jumped and flew trying to get into the truck, he grabbed onto my arm, in which case I looked down and saw this rather large 2.5-inch grasshopper weighing in at about, 2.5 pounds. I mean, he was buff. He was ready to go a couple of rounds. I shake my arm, but he's not coming off. He's got good grip. Yeah. I start freaking out to the limits of what the seatbelt will allow. Yeah, it's absolute chaos and carnage. Me versus the grasshopper. I won, and we didn't have to stop. So, win-win, and probably the best story in David Chastain's entire tour. Anyway, this one coming out of New York Post. So, letting you know that it's freaky when all of a sudden there's a grasshopper on your arm. Well, Driver's worst nightmare comes true when a snake hitches a ride on his car's windshield. Now, at least he's outside the car. But this guy, well, anyway, we will discover how much. No author, just Foxweather. But New York Post, I don't understand the relationship. Anyway, driving 70 miles an hour down a Kansas highway, Vicky Rule found a snake staring at her through the windshield. It is my worst nightmare come true, Rule told Tulsa's Fox 23. In that moment, it is so surreal. For an hour, Rule drove as the serpent wound itself around her rearview mirror, the door mirror, slithered across the windshield, and into and out of the engine compartment. Not only unnerved by the curious snake, she also videoed the ordeal, making driving a challenge. She said she just focused on not crashing and actually missed her exit because she was so distracted. Sheer panic, just frightened, just terrified. In some of the videos, you can hear those rumble grids where I'm trying to keep the car on the road. Boy, this one was all kind of dangerous. She was afraid to pull off the road and park on the narrow shoulder to shoo the critter off the car. It was almost 100 degrees out. Where am I going to go? I'm probably going to get hit. Rule suspects the snake climbed on board while she was parked at her friend's farm. It was probably just looking for food, said Bob Cross of Critter Capture Services. Snakes just crawl and look for food. That's pretty much their life. But there's nothing in a car or on a hood or in an engine. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Maybe it just didn't want to pay Uber. Cross identified the hitchhiker as a young, non-venomous bull snake. He has only gotten one call to remove a snake from a car. I got a boa constrictor about 3 foot long out from an engine of a car a lot of years ago, he said. He worked his way up on top of the engine. The fan blade of the engine was hitting the snake, making a clicking noise. The driver stopped, gets out, raises the hood to find what was clicking. And here's the snake on top of the engine. Rule did call 911, but the dispatcher told her to call a reptile rescue group. Well, that's helpful. Once she got off the highway and parked, the snake wasted no time getting off the car and quickly slithered away into the grass. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the grasshopper. I think he donated his blood to the floor mat. I think he was ground underfoot. But in this case, the bull snake got away. We used to have a bull snake as a child. When I was a child, when my mom remarried, that family had a bull snake. And one day, for April Fool's, I wrapped it around my neck, ran up to my mom, holding my breath and pushing hard so that I could make my face turn really, really red. And then I squeaked out to my mom, "Mom, help me, the snake got me." Don't do that. I just say that now. Don't do that. My mom chased me around the house with a very large knife. And there was a point where I wasn't sure if it was for me or the snake. But I really didn't want either of us to be injured by the knife. So, yeah, as soon as the house started getting emptier, that snake was the first thing to go, followed by the salamander. In which case, when I moved into that house, not voluntarily, I was very disturbed by the case of the boxed salamander. I mean, seriously, that salamander lived its entire life inside that box and knew nothing else. That, to me, was like the saddest existence ever. Its only understanding of the universe is when the box popped open and some benevolent creature such as myself gave it a few mealworms and closed it up in darkness again. I don't think we ever gave it a heat rock. I don't think we ever... it had one rock. I think it pooped in that water for years. Yeah, I mean, they had a cat that didn't have a tail because somebody ran over the tail. The cat fell asleep underneath the car. So when the car backed up and had the tail pinched under the tire, the cat took off and ripped off its own tail. It was a very weird family, man. I'm telling you. Not as weird as this discovery, though. I mean, stray local? No, that's a band. How about stray arrow lodged in woman's face shocks the ER doctors? Well, yeah, that would shock me to death. Well, not to death, but certainly into some sort of action. Apparently, grisly scene awaited paramedics in China after responding to an archery injury involving a woman shot in the face by an arrow. Boy, the translation is really painful here. She was reportedly practicing with a crossbow on June 13 in his yard in Chan. I am not going to pronounce that province when the arrow struck the woman, piercing through her eyelid. Part of the 3.5-foot long precarious 3.5-foot long crossbow bolt precariously dangled from her eye socket as emergency staff and surgeons at the hospital worked to extract it safely. First responders used bolt cutters to remove part of the arrow while doctors assisted. She was later rushed into the operating room to have the portion of the arrow closest to her face taken out. Thankfully, no internal organs were struck by the object, and she survived the horrific ordeal. Holy cow! The photograph is insane, man. It looks like they're trying to crack open somebody's locker at the train station, but instead it's these two dudes with big helmets and goggles. I mean, they look like they're ready to take on a fire. Coming at this lady with a bolt cutter. Yeah, you want to cut off the arrow end first so it doesn't hook on the way back. That's how you kind of do. Anyway. We were relieved that she survived. It could have killed her, the fire department spokesman said. According to Viral Press, the middle-aged patient is currently in recovery at the hospital while police continue their investigation of the incident. Yeah, I don't know if it was a stray arrow as it was a badly managed, like, if you're not allowed to have guns and you can do arrows, you should, I don't know. Poor woman, though, man. At least, so from the photographs, it was like an archery sport bolt. It wasn't one of those hunting bolts, right, with the 4 blades, the 2 blades crossed into an X or a cross. And they're super duper sharp, and they're much larger than the shank of the bolt, right? It's designed to, completely eviscerate the deer's heart. Well, at least this one was just for target practice, so when they removed it from her eye, they weren't taking out half of the insides with it. Isn't that amazing? Now, this one I have been waiting to read to you directly because I'm not entirely sure what this involves. Maybe one of y'all can chat in and help me out. Coming from Fox 23 out of God only knows where. It's written by staff, so they're not even going to take credit for it. Pontotoc County, Oklahoma. Pontotoc County, Oklahoma. That's the best I got. The headline is, Man arrested for killing noodling partner claims Bigfoot defense. Hey. Pontotoc County, I think. Pontotoc? I don't know. Oklahoma man was arrested for killing a fellow noodler in Pontotoc County, claiming the killing was related to a Bigfoot summoning, according to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Larry Sanders and Jimmy Knighton were noodling in the South Canadian River on July 9 when a fight broke out between them. What is noodling? Sanders reportedly hit and strangled Knighton. Sanders appeared to be under the influence of something, said Pontotoc County Sheriff John Christian. His statement was that Mr. Knighton had summoned Bigfoot to come and kill him. That's why he had to kill Mr. Knighton. Sanders was originally arrested on an outstanding warrant and booked into the Pontotoc County Jail. So apparently he had other, outstanding warrants. On July 10, authorities found Knighton's body and charged Sanders with the murder in the first degree. The medical examiner will determine cause and manner of Knighton's death. What is noodling? What's a noodler? If anybody in the chat can help me out, anybody want to call in, but I'm not sure what a noodler is. I thought the story would help me out. Killing a noodling partner. Because he does not look like a guitar player. At all. So if you're going to noodle, noodling I thought was a guitar player thing. Or at least a musician thing, but no better answers here. Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe we will learn more about noodling from our guests later this morning. Oh, more coffee. UPI, Thomas Leffler. Brewery serves up refreshing take on hurricane preparedness. Oh, this is for you, my friend, Mr. Cahoon, Dr. Cahoon, if you're listening. For one state, passing down knowledge and awareness about hurricane season is as easy as combining refreshment and enlightenment. In South Carolina, the Dorchester County Emergency Management Department was searching for a way to spread the word about the Atlantic hurricane season and how people can stay prepared during potential storms, something beyond the typical PSA, which is public service announcement. I was thinking of interesting ways to get the message out there that's never been done before. Maybe get adults interested in it, Dorchester County Emergency Management Preparedness and Recovery Specialist David Amon said. After some discussions, Amon broached the idea to partner with a brewery for a hurricane seasonal beer which could print crucial evacuation preparedness messaging on the cans of newly crafted brew. Well, know your zone, baby. The beer idea blossomed into a partnership between Dorchester County and Tradesman Brewing Company in Charleston, cresting with the creation of the Know Your Zone beer. The light-tasting beer, brewed with California hops, is being sold in select local grocery stores with a special purpose. Each can of Know Your Zone features a QR code the residents can scan using their phone. The QR code leads to South Carolina's new emergency preparedness website just in time for hurricane season. The Carolinas were given a taste of what the season has to offer in July when Tropical Storm Colin formed on July 2nd, the third named storm of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. Colin brought heavy rains and strong winds to the Carolina coastlines before quickly losing organization, much like this radio station. But there is a long way to go between now and November 30, the official end of hurricane season in the Atlantic. Other potential storms, including some more dangerous than Colin, will require locals to stay up to date with vital safety information. Therefore, quote, the website will teach people how to create an emergency kit, how to create family emergency plan, how to find your hurricane evacuation zone. It's just a one-stop shop for that hurricane preparedness information right on the can. Easily accessible by your phone, Amon told AccuWeather National reporter Emmy Victor. That's right, man. I'm getting hammered on this bear, and I'm just going to QR code. That's how I'm going to prepare. But that's what we do, man. And we cleaned out the liquor stores and just sat there and shouted at the storm for a week when it came a couple years ago. After, after just a few weeks on the shelves in Dorchester County, the cans have piqued the interest of the public, both from those living in the areas as well as outside visitors. Tradesman Brewing Company owner Sarah McConnell said that out of 119 QR code scanned, 31 were in the local vicinity, while the rest were from those taking interest from outside Dorchester County. As the brewing company keeps up with the scans, McConnell said that the partnership has been a success. People understand that it's more than just beer, that there's other community members involved and that we're trying to keep people safe. She said it's very exciting. The joint initiative is expected to become an annual hurricane season tradition, with Amon hoping that more counties in South Carolina and other states can implement similarly unique awareness opportunities. He says, we're not trying to make this idea just a Dorchester County thing. We're happy that people love the initiative. We're hoping it maybe inspires other emergency management departments. Get hammered, save a life. How's that? Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. There we go. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have hit the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a bit of a commercial break. And when we come back, Dan Roman from Full Circle Fitness will be joining us. And what a party it will be, I promise. Sponsored by Preference by L'Oreal. Don't go nowhere.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. The Board of Trustees and staff for Thalian Hall Center for the Performing Arts announced on Tuesday that Executive and Artistic Director Tony Rivenbark died on Monday night. Rivenbark was the first and only Executive Director of Thalian Hall. Not only a legend in the Cape Fear, Rivenbark helped communities across the country revitalize historic theaters and cultivate art scenes. Wilmington police are looking for a suspect in an alleged armed robbery. Just after 6 p.m. Tuesday evening, a man entered the Memories of a Child retail store at 6932 Market Street. He displayed a gun and left with cash. WPD officers conducted a track with the K-9 unit, and the Criminal Investigation Division is currently investigating this as an armed robbery. The suspect is a white male in his 40s or 50s and was wearing a black hoodie with USMC on the front at the time of the robbery. The man has blue eyes and was wearing a mask. He is believed to have left in a vehicle. In Wilmington, city leaders are considering revamping an ordinance on panhandling. During Tuesday night's council meeting, city staff shared a presentation about the problem. City Attorney John Joy made it clear that panhandling was a constitutional right upheld by the First Amendment, so outlawing it entirely is not an option. Right now, the city is working on enforcing laws where panhandlers impede traffic and coming up with a set of recommendations for council to consider for updating the city's panhandling ordinance. And a number of communities in the Cape Fear will benefit from the state budget recently signed by Governor Roy Cooper. The budget offers funding to the countywide Community Development Corporation in Navassa, the Bolivia Volunteer Fire Department, and capital improvements for 2 places in Southport, the Cape Fear Regional Jetport and Dosher Memorial Hospital. Bladen County is also getting $3.5 million for economic development. Additional funding is earmarked for capital improvements in Bladenboro, Caswell Beach, and Ocean Isle Beach. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Get ready for another toasty one here in the Cape Fears. Our high temperatures climb into the low 90s away from the coast, upper 80s for those coastal areas. And thanks to gusty southwest winds, we have a high risk for rip currents for south-facing beaches later today. As we head into the afternoon hours, we do have another chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms to fire up. Not expecting everyone to get on the action, but as we head into the overnight hours tonight, remaining warm and muggy with temperatures falling to the middle and upper 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Hey, I'm Yael Osowski.
And I'm David Clement.
We're the host of Consumer Choice Radio, broadcasting every Saturday at 10 a.m. here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Consumer Choice Radio is a weekly conversation featuring the latest news, interviews, and expert analysis that covers consumer topics from around the world.
ConsumerChoiceRadio.com.
Joining Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
So, I don't know if
And I made a mistake, so I have a missing camera.
Uh-oh.
Yep. But we are back here on the Asylum. I just have to prove it to you. And we will here in a moment. And our friend Dan Roman from Full Circle Fitness is with us. You may not see him right now because, I broke something. How are you doing, Dan?
No. Well, that's okay. Nobody wants to see my ugly face anyway. Besides, my background is kind of messed up. I'm looking at it now. We're getting ready to film the podcast that we do Fridays. We're pre-filming one today. Actually, right after this, I'll be doing it. So
nice.
I got to hopefully people excuse the background because I had to have it all set up. But anyway, so I have a really interesting topic today.
All right. What do you got?
One you may not have heard about before. There's this thing called COVID-19. I know you're probably not familiar with it.
No, it doesn't affect me at all. I am not from this planet. The stuff that affects you hominids are not my issue.
I hesitate to go here because I think we're all tired of hearing about it. But I got sent some really interesting information very early this morning, and I'll be honest up front. I will say I have not read everything on it, but I've read through the highlights of it, and it came out of England. And what's interesting is, we're 2.5-ish years in, and the data's really starting to come out about. And I'm not talking political side. I don't want to go that route today. This is strictly from the health perspective. The data is really starting to come out that there's some stuff that maybe we need to kind of rethink. So this was out of England. There's a couple things that got released, but the first one was they were looking at the COVID deaths. The report was released from April through May of this year. So roughly a 2-month period. In England, and I'm rounding these numbers, so please excuse that, there were about 9,000 deaths. Of that, only 268 of them were vaccinated. All of the others were either vaccinated or triple vaccinated. So it was roughly 4,600 were vaccinated, roughly 4,200 were triple vaccinated. And again, this is not to talk about the political side or any of that. Where I want to go with this and discuss about is a lot of people believe if they're vaccinated, they're safe. And, we still need to be mindful of that.
I think a lot of what we lose sight, or a lot of folks have lost sight of, and I do this myself, is we think we're safe from any one thing, but no matter how much you're inoculated, getting hit by a bus is still going to ruin your day.
Correct.
So you may be, immunized, inoculated, whatever, but you're still at risk for any number of things, not limited to a bug that can only be seen by a microwave. Or a microscope.
It'd be interesting if it could be seen by a microwave too. But,
that would be. I mean, that would really ruin my popcorn on a movie night.
But as I'm parsing through the data on this, the things that are standing out again, and I think, and this is where I kind of want to go with it. They're not really putting out there the real causes of the people passing away, which again, it comes down to age is one of the biggest factors. The older you are, the more likely you are to pass away. Obesity is right there with it. Again, I mean,
well, these are kind of natural causes anyway.
They are.
If you're old and fat, chances are you're going to die sooner than somebody who's younger and not fat.
Yeah. And then the other one that's kind of cropping up a little bit is diabetes. And what was interesting was a second thing that was sent to me was talking about if you have gotten COVID once, your likelihood of getting diabetes is increased.
Ah.
And then the more times you have it, because some people are on their second, third. I know one person's on their 4th wave of COVID. The data shows the risk of diabetes rose by 80%.
Boy, I should cut back on the sodas now, I guess.
Yeah, and that one kind of threw me. I was not aware of that one.
Yeah, that one's a little weird.
I hadn't heard that one before, and that's what kind of got me prompted to talk about this, because so many of us, and I'm in that group, we've kind of put COVID behind us, right? We don't want to hear about it anymore. We don't want to deal with it. But to your point that you made earlier, if you're older, if you're overweight, if you're diabetic, you need to be taking precautions, not just with COVID, but with anything, right? You need to start addressing this stuff. So many people are like, I'll worry about it when it becomes a problem. Well,
kind of like nuclear waste, kind of like bridges, kind of like infrastructure. Yeah, this is a common theme.
I'll worry about the bridge when it falls into the river,
That's us.
And it's, when you're looking at stuff like this, and I talk about it all the time with people, it goes in one ear and out the other. It just does. And unfortunately, though, I'm trying to raise awareness on all this. And I just happen in this case to be using the COVID data for that. But as you mentioned, when you're diabetic, overweight, you can ignore it. You can, I'll just pop a few pills and that'll be fine. But you are shortening your life by many years, often. Of course, they always find the one person that's, 100 years old that chain smokes, drinks every day, overweight, all those things. And then that person is held out as a good
life.
Yeah, there's the proof that I don't need to worry about it. Of course, the literally millions of others that have died from all of that, we don't pay attention to that, right? That data doesn't matter.
No, the American dream is all based on the success story only.
Yes, correct. It's always the good news is what is counted 100 times more than the bad, as far as health goes, and other things too, like bridges.
Yeah, because you can't pay for them otherwise.
Yeah. But it was very interesting. As I said, I'm starting to read, again, as we talked about last week, I don't just read what the media posts. I read the actual studies. And I'm starting to delve into that diabetes one. So as I find things out, I'll let you know. But they're also seeing increases in irregular heartbeats and blood clots. From COVID. Now, what's interesting, I have yet to see where they've kind of tied in whether it's vaccinated or not.
Or there's what the mechanism is between the two.
Yeah.
We learned about how potassium and sodium affect muscle constriction and extension.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have, so we understand that mechanism really well. We understand the mechanism behind smoking and cancer. We understand these different mechanisms that I'm not surprised that it has taken 2.5 years to have the pool of data to which we can get specific as to what's happening. So this may still not be 100% accurate. It's showing us a trend.
Oh, it's a trend. There's a key point to bring up, which is we don't know. This is one study, right?
And their concentration is this right now.
Correct. So that's where it's kind of interesting to me, but it's worth looking into, parsing out the data and seeing what it says. When you look at the irregular heartbeats and blood clots, if you think back, about 6 months ago, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine got pulled for a while because of heartbeat issues and blood clots. So is it related to that? I haven't seen anything yet in the study. It's kind of a generic one. However, I did see a media thing where they ran with it, saying, misinformation, so to speak. And by the way, if anyone wants to claim I'm spreading misinformation right now, this is straight out of the UK's government. So it's their misinformation.
Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this. We have a current wave of COVID variation sweeping the planet.
Yes, we do.
And I don't think that they give Mr. T enough credit. You're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm like, where are you going with this? That was exactly what my thought was.
Isn't this latest variation called the BA5?
I honestly don't know.
I think it's called BA5.
Now I get the tie-in.
And that's the character from the A team that Mr. T played.
So that this variant has chains going around its neck.
That's one of the big chains in a mohawk. It doesn't look like the little red ball with the yellow crown of thorns. This one looks, a pity the fool.
A pity the
fool that don't wash your hands.
Pity the fool. It's there. We're on wave 4 of the variant.
Man.
I don't. Again,
I'm doing good to remember to eat on a daily basis. Okay,
yeah, I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, so I don't worry about it.
Gluten-free waffles.
Gluten-free? Why?
You don't remember that from Tony Stark when it's like the lady walks in and he's like, she says, you don't remember me, do you? He says, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. Jarvis chimes in, gluten-free waffles, sir.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
Somebody has to take care of me, right? Somebody,
right.
When I see the first of the month come by, I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to do something.
That's why I have this thing to tell me what to do from day to day, because without it, I'd be dead. I wouldn't know where I was supposed to be or when. but we're starting to see, like you kind of talked about, the data is starting to come out. And, my key point with all this is, look, who cares about the political side of it? You think whatever you want on it, but you need to start really thinking about your health. It's where, as we're getting older, society's getting older, this stuff's really starting to show up. The boomers are aging. They were the first generation that really kind of fell into the, I'm going to be blunt, lazy and refusing to eat good food. They eat a bunch of junk. They don't work out. They were the first generation of it. And now we're starting to see, the younger generations. You look at I don't even remember what they all are anymore. Millennials, Gen X. I don't know what the one after that is.
I don't even know what their boundaries are. I'm just like, you're young and stupid. Until you,
I know millennials are up to 1999. That's the one I do know because all my kids are millennials. Other than that, you're right. I don't know the boundaries. But you look at those generations, they're in even worse shape. What do the younger kids do? They sit and play video games all day long and eat a bunch of crap. They don't even get out in the sunshine. So as we get older as a society, these things are going to start compounding. And when you think about the costs involved, one of our clients was at the hospital here, Novant, about 2 weeks ago and waited something like 9 hours in the emergency room. Yeah. Before they even saw a doctor. So, of course, they were blaming the hospital, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But keep in mind that these hospitals are really short-staffed right now. They're trying the best they can. And it's just going to get worse and worse. Nursing homes, they can't get employees. And yet,
you mean elderly petri dish?
What did somebody call them once? Something farm. It was pretty good. They called it I'll forget. It'll come back to me.
The body part farm.
Yeah. But that's where I say to people, look, I get it. Talking about your health, trying to do something about it is not fun, right? We don't want to face the realities.
We can't we can't even with a straight face refer to the effects and capabilities and functions of the human body.
Yeah,
right? I mean, whether you're referring to sex as far as gender or as far as issues and reproduction, et cetera, we cannot refer to the hardware without causing issue. I mean, I've made jokes that involve the Cambodian pitcher plant that has received a number of complaints only because of the resemblance. Right? We can't have, and then... and then it's like, am I offending a man, a woman, or someone who hasn't decided yet?
Well, that's the thing. You don't even know who you're offending because...
I don't even think they know.
There you go. Exactly right. I mean, now the word woman is offensive. And I'm like, what? They're menstruating beings. I'm like,
broad.
On.
Remember back in the 40s and 50s?
Broad.
Yeah, what's up with that, broad?
Well, I was wondering if Chick-fil-A was going to rename themselves to something else because chick is a derogatory term.
And I think the chickens would be offended by the term fillet. I mean, that's like an end of life situation there.
Yeah, really. It kind of speaks, though, to where we're at, right? Because doctors now won't even bring up your weight. So if you're 200 pounds overweight, their job should be to tell you, hey, maybe you could drop a few pounds, right? They won't even do that anymore because they're so afraid of offending someone.
So what are we going to do for friends? Like, I want my friends to tell me the uncomfortable stuff. So if I'm paying a doctor to make sure that that's where those uncomfortable conversations should be happening. Well, I do not understand that.
It's funny because I deal with it daily as a trainer, right? People pay me to hold them accountable. That's when people hire a personal trainer.
Can you work for the government?
No, I wouldn't.
That'd be awesome if you could hold them to account. That'd be awesome.
I would get tossed out. That's why I'll never be a politician because I would not make it 5 minutes without speaking my mind. And we know how that goes. But people come to me. That's not they don't want the workouts. It's not about the workouts. It's not about showing them great recipes or whatever to eat. It's accountability by a mile. It's telling them what they need. My favorite phrase: "I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear." Right? And I get in trouble for it sometimes. I mean, people get. Now I'm very polite about it. I'm like, hey, you could drop a few pounds. Here's how we're going to go about doing it. That type of stuff. Most people.
You won't need to replace your knees near as quickly.
Yeah, 99% of people are good with it, but that one that's out there will go nuts because, well, you can't tell me I'm overweight. Okay, well, then we're not going to deal with reality. And honestly, I won't keep them as a client at that point because I can't then do my job to speak to what you were saying, right?
Yeah, you need to go to the purple. You need to go to the purple gym.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they'll feed you the bagels and Tootsie Rolls.
Dude, that blew my mind. I went to one of those health clubs, right? Athletic joint, got the little handball courts and has all of that. They want me to shoot a video as a commercial. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll come in and I'm, assessing the place I'm going through. What are my shots going to be? Because it's really hard to shoot a fitness facility and make it not look like an industrial setting. You know what I'm saying?
Is that why my videos are so bad?
It's really hard to make them not look like an industrial setting. It really is. So I'm walking around this place, and one of the places they wanted me to feature was their cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so their little cafe is actually 2 counters, one for the patron and one for the barista, for lack of a better term. Everything in there was either prepackaged or prepackaged nuclear.
Yep.
And then everything else was in a bottle, like, bottled water, bottled electrolytes. And I'm like, so what part of this is healthy?
Well, it's funny, too, because you'll often see they have the smoothie bars.
They had smoothies there.
And then when you look at the smoothies, so you go in, you get a
There's
workout.
a kit. There's like a little packet they add to each one.
Yeah, you burn like 200, 300, 400 calories. You got a great workout, right? And then you go to the smoothie bar because you got to get your quotes protein in, which yes, you do need to, but that smoothie's got like 800 calories in it, and most of it is sugar. And so you not only defeated your entire workout, you doubled the amount of calories you ate versus what you burned.
But now you're regular.
They're money makers for them. There was a gym up north that I went to that sold oxygen shots.
Excuse me?
Yeah. So they had tanks of oxygen, and you would go up and you would get a shot of oxygen. I don't know, it was like 30 seconds or something like that, where you'd breathe on oxygen, and then they would flavor it. So.
Oh, wait. So basically a vape pen. A really big vape pen.
Vape pens before there were vape pens.
Wow.
So, like, they had me try bubble gum was one of them. I'm trying to remember them all.
Oh, yeah. I've smelled that vape when somebody did it in a car. I was like,
God. Really? And I'm like, so I was talking to the manager about it, and he's like, oh, this is a cash cow for us. Because they were charging like $5 a shot.
Jeez.
It cost them like 15 cents.
Now, he is about 30 years ahead of the game, though.
Oh, he was genius.
Yeah, because we're going to be selling shots of air here before long.
But it was, you look at that, and I go, and I was standing there watching, and I'm not kidding, 20 people probably over the course of an hour went up and bought their shot. Because all they had to do, they never had to pay money. They just swiped their key fob from coming in and out of the gym. So it was automatically billed
your gambler's card. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The dude was a genius. I credit to the owner, manager, whatever he was, for coming up with it as far as a business thing. But as far as a health thing, yeah, I mean, bubblegum oxygen ain't going to do much for your body. I'm sorry.
Well, some of the hospitals have even taken to having like Taco Bell, Burger King joints in their hospitals.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes sense from a business point of view. It eliminates, the need for those employees and your the department guy that comes in, the sanitation and health guys that inspect your restaurant and stuff. You eliminate all of those overhead and issues from your hospital. But now, whenever anybody comes to visit a sick or dying relative and loved one in the hospital, the only options they have left now are Tacoritos and Doritos, and really, come on.
It's a captive audience, right? So, like, my wife had a knee replacement in January. Now, the procedures at the time was I couldn't stay in the hospital, but as we're moving forward, now you're sitting in the waiting room, right? And I was sitting in my car in this particular case for about 4.5 hours with basically not much to do. What you got a Burger King sitting in the lobby. Guess what people are going to go do, right?
Yep.
They're going to get their coffee, breakfast, whatever. If it's later in the day,
and don't compare the prices there to the ones on the.
Oh well, yeah, and then that's a good point, right? Because I'm sure that I don't know.
Well, the overhead, like if you eat at a food court in a shopping mall as opposed to a standalone restaurant in a strip plaza. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's a cash cow for those places. So I get it from a business perspective, and I applaud it actually the businessman in me applauds it.
Right, the creative aspect of selling something. I mean, if you did that in a bar, it would make more sense. It would be more, to me, in line with what they're doing in the bar in the first place. They're selling you crap you don't need that's really not that good for you.
Correct.
For you to have a good time or perceive that you're having a good time. But in a health
go ahead.
In a health setting, right, if I go into a hospital, I really want to see things like fresh edamame beans and, tossed spinach and lettuce salads. Seeing branded logo food in a hospital is just like, wait, what is your mission statement?
Their mission statement is to make the stockholders happy. That's their mission
For
statement.
one brief moment before the planet burned up, we returned value for our shareholders.
But also, to be fair to them, they're giving the masses what they want, right? You talked about bars. Bars do what they do because that's what gets people in the door. If bars had healthy drinks only and spinach salads, they'd be empty, right? Same thing for the hospitals. They know that people don't want to eat healthy. They want to live in denial, which is not just a river in Egypt. And I'll deal with it when I have to. Unfortunately, when they have to, they're either in the hospital and not as a visitor and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cases, or they die. And I had a client recently that ended up getting rushed to the emergency room.
Oy.
And, she works out regularly. She's in decent shape. But what shocked her about it is she got her bills, and we're talking multiple six figures for basically a 3-day visit.
Y'all just leave me. Just leave me where you find me.
Yeah. She had a major procedure, but
I don't need it.
She was shocked, and we're seeing it with my wife's bills coming in, again, she had a knee replacement. It was because her knee just wore out. But you're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Those things, a lot of times you can't do anything about, right? There's nothing my wife could have done to prevent what happened to her knee. There's nothing.
Like heart failure that's congenital.
Right.
It's in your genes at some point, poof.
Yeah. But if you're 200 pounds overweight and chain smoking or whatever, that is on you. And living in denial about it you're going to pay the price at some point. And that's my point really with all of this is, look, if you consciously decide you're going to do whatever to your body, fine. You're an adult. You can make your own decisions. I truly believe that. What I also believe, though, is you need to own those decisions.
Yeah, crack ain't healthy.
Yeah, you can't then go, well, it's my genetics. It ain't your genetics, all right? It's not menopause, ladies, that make you overweight when you're in your 50s. It's because you eat too much. And like I said, I can be pretty blunt about these things, but people need to know this and hear this stuff, because to not say that, to me, it's criminal. It's when doctors don't have honest discussions with their patients because they're so afraid of being canceled. We talked about this on the Brunswick show last night, right? I have no fear of being canceled. Believe me, it's been tried many times. I am going to be honest with people. Now, I'm not trying to be mean to anyone. I'm just being honest with them. If you're 200 pounds overweight and you're a chain smoker and you get COVID, the odds of you dying are significantly higher than, say, me, right? And I'm not in perfect shape, not by any stretch. But I own my choices, right? Could I have 6-pack abs? if I really, really, really worked on it, I don't want to. I'm too old for that crap. That's the way I put it, right? But I also don't sit there and go, well, I'm about 40 pounds overweight because my genetics. No, it has nothing to do with my genetics. It's because I enjoy having a good steak on a regular basis. And I own my decisions. And, when I talk with my doctor, it was funny. The last doctor's visit I had, she was trying to be so gentle with me about the weight thing, right? Because I am about 30, 40 pounds overweight. And I admit that, and I don't care. All right. Because I can lift up. As I said to her, how many people do you know can deadlift twice your weight? Oh, yeah. All right. But she was trying to be so
polite,
gentle, I guess, with what she was saying. And I'm like, Doc, just spill it out. Okay. I get it. You don't have to worry about me being offended. But I felt bad for her, because if that's the case for these doctors, where they're being told, look, you cannot discuss, say, weight or smoking or any of the bad habits, so to speak, they're not doing proper service to their clients, to their patients. I really believe that. And I don't think it's the individual doctors. I think it's the healthcare administrators, right? So here locally, that would be Novant, for example. It's not the doctors that work for Novant that are saying that. It's the CEO on down, right? We don't want to get canceled by the woke. Stop it. We need to have honest conversations here. We need to look at data, like I talked about earlier, and have honest, open conversations about it. Because it's to the benefit of the individual and to society to do that. We may not like what we hear, but sticking our head in the sand never works.
Well, I need to pivot on that. So, with having honest conversations, something popped up in the news recently, because apparently there's been enough complaints about it, but it has nothing to do with health, but same opinion. The panhandlers are
I saw something on that.
The panhandlers are covered by the First Amendment.
Yep.
Which is offensive. But if that's the case, I think we need to redefine the level of language for which, I should be able to respond. If I'm being asked for $1 from a guy who's unemployable, I should be able to respond with something like, do a flip. Do something.
Okay.
Right?
Earn it, in other words.
Right. Do something. I'm earning my money. Everybody else is earning their money. You're just going to stand there and ask me for $1? No.
Oh, my God. I have never thought of it that way. I'm going to be honest.
And now some of the ordinances are saying, all right, some of the things that we can do, and the church on the corner of Market and 17th, I believe it is, had the brilliant realization that the people that were panhandling on their street corner had destroyed the grass up and down their side of the sidewalk due to the guy pacing.
Okay.
So they resodded the entire area and fenced it off, and it's private property. It is now, if you're not on the sidewalk, you're trespassing. I mean, what other solutions? If it's a freedom of speech for me to just say, hey, man, got it out? Hey, man, can I have a cigarette? Hey, man, give me some food. Hey, man, hey, man, hey, man, hey, man, hey, man, hey, man, hey, man. At what point are you allowed to punch them? Okay, you're not allowed to punch them. What form?
No, that's
right. What other forms of recourse do we have? If this is a freedom of speech thing, then should we not respond in like kind? You are about to hear something that is going to be very uncomfortable. You are not going to want to have this conversation with me. Right? Because I am not going to be like your doctor and be all polite and say, oh, I'm sorry you're having such a hard time. Hell no, brother. I'm having trouble rubbing 2 dimes together, and you're trying to take one? I tell you what, if you have a marketable skill, or at least will do a flip or something to impress me to earn my $1, then we're good.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about it. Like, I will not give them money. I have occasionally, not here, but like up north, when I lived up north, there was one spot they would hang out, and it was basically in front of a Dunkin' Donuts. So, if they were panhandling and, can you give me $1 so I can get something to eat? No, I'm not going to give you the $1 because you're going to go buy alcohol with that. We all know that.
Right. Or, you're going
drugs.
to do, this is not
So I would go, if I was going in to get my coffee, I'd buy an extra coffee and a donut and give it to them. And sometimes it was appreciated. A lot of times it wasn't, right? Because they want that $1 so they can go to the liquor store down the street. What annoys me about it is the volume of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You go downtown Wilmington, if there's one...
They're even carrying a sign that says, I just moved to town, give me money. And it's like, why the hell did you move to town if you didn't have a job? Why are you here?
You can't walk down Market Street or Front Street without just getting assaulted.
Amen.
Right? It's not one.
Anywhere the tourists are, these guys are like right there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the cops do what they can. But like you said, it's First Amendment. They have every right to be there. But it's, you talk about society would say, we can't respond the way you're talking about. You're a bad person for thinking that way. TK, come on, which is you're
okay. The first two or three I was okay with. By the time the third or fourth one came along, I'm like, I'm going to hit one of you guys. And with what they've done to the 3rd Street section in front of the library, they have completely ruined that public garden.
Oh, really? See, I haven't been near there. So.
Yeah, from I think it's Gray Street to Walnut. That whole area is just completely trashed by all the homeless folks in front of the, living in the library's garden.
Jeez. The one that I always thought about is right along the river, the old, train station or whatever it was, the overhang where the bathrooms are. They used to be packed in there. You couldn't even walk by it without getting accosted. At least they've done something about that, but it sounds like they drove them all up to the other place now. So, it's a tough problem, homelessness. I have a very good friend who's heavily involved in that, or was. He kind of gotten out of it now. And he would say most of them don't want to be helped.
No. Because they're allowed to get away with stuff that they don't have to answer to be an adult. And that's, there's a childishness to a vast majority of them.
And a stubbornness. They kind of go together. I mean, he would say, look, it's going to be, because he was in up north. So if, like, say a winter night was going to be -20, his job was to drive around in a van and say, hey, get in the van. We're going to take you to the shelter for the night. It's going to be -20, blah, blah, blah. And they would not do it. They would rather die than even take shelter for one night.
I would go around after him and hand out dog tags so that we can identify your corpse when we dig you out of the snowbank. Toe tag, whatever.
Toe tags would probably be more appropriate. And, it was funny because I remember one time talking with him, and it was right after they had out on the news, like, I think 2 people, it was like a really bad cold wave, 3-4 days, and 2 people died. 2 homeless people died, which was sad. And he's like, yeah, I know right where they were. I was there. They wouldn't come in. Mental illness is a big issue with them. But it's just the whole scenario. There's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
There is no answer.
But it's not getting any better if we keep having these tiptoe conversations like your doctor was trying to have. That's my point. If we cannot have a conversation where, guess what? It's going to be uncomfortable because this is uncomfortable.
Right.
And as far as being a tourist town, if somebody's walking down 3rd Street admiring the view and enjoying the battleship, and some jackhole walks up with no skills, not my responsibility, not their responsibility, saying, hey, give me $1. That's not what they're here for. That's not why the tourists come to town. That's why they go to, like, Bald Head Island. They will throw you in the water if you do that on Bald Head Island.
That I didn't know. Interesting. Maybe I need to go to Bald Head Island.
Oh, it is the ultimate. I mean, because you can't. First of all, the price of admission is $22, I think, or $25, whatever the ferry rate is to get to and from. Because you can't buy a one-way ticket to the island. They don't want you there.
They don't want you staying there.
No, not unless you own something on that island. Come out and have dinner. Come out and rent a cottage, play a round of golf. Fine. And then get the hell out of here. But the entry, right? The barrier to entry is financial. So if you don't have the $25 in your pocket to buy the ticket in the first place, you're not getting on the island to do your grifting. It's just not going to happen. So maybe we have a price of admission for the downtown area that you present an ID and maybe a voucher for $5 or right? Because you would get it from your hotel like you do your valet parking.
Or you pay for parking. Oh, wait, they don't need to pay for parking.
Right. And if you can pay for parking and you're begging for money, then we'll just take your car and pay for everything with the car that you don't need because you're begging.
So is that why Carolina Beach and Curry put in all the parking fees? Because that way they...
It's maybe that's the start, but that's creeping up your way, man.
I mean, it's like, I always laugh about it. I'm like, yeah, well, they do want to keep the riffraff away, except the riffraff to those places is the middle class.
Yeah.
They've so priced the parking now. Now, look, during the summer, I get it. But if you're going to charge me $25 to go there in December, guess what? I ain't going, you know.
Carolina Beach lost that battle big time.
Yeah, well, they've kind of caved on some of it, but I'm
caved. They got bombarded. They're in the second town council meeting where the first one apparently they snuck the vote through.
Yep, they did.
And then when people realized what had happened, I called a number of them, had them on the show, and it was like, oh, no. They all showed up at the meeting and overran it by over 2 hours, forcing them to make a vote that night to say, all right, we're not going to do that again.
Well, you know, what's funny about it is what pisses me off about that whole thing. I get charging for parking. I don't really have a problem with that. But they consider anyone OTB, over the bridge. That's the term they use, OTB, a tourist. So here I live, 4 miles from Carolina Beach. Back last year and the year before,
outsider.
I could buy the parking pass for the year. It was like a couple $100. More than fair.
Not anymore, you outlander.
Yeah, now I am scum, right? No, you're going to pay full price. Well, guess what? I haven't kept track of it, but kind of sort of have. There's been thousands of dollars that I have not spent in Carolina Beach now.
Yep.
Right, because my wife and I used to go down every Friday night. We would get dinner, go to the beach for a little bit, just chill. Now we're not doing that. We're getting dinner in, let's say Monkey Junction or wherever, then going down. So all those small businesses down there have lost my money. And again, I don't have a problem with parking, but let me buy the pass.
Right.
And
because the parking pass you have to go and get in person. So it's not like somebody in Maryland is going to roll down here and buy a parking pass on a Tuesday afternoon.
Even if that was the case, all they have to do is say, if you're a New Hanover County resident, say, you can buy the parking pass.
That would make sense.
We are locals. I live in New Hanover County. You are getting my tax dollars in your town. The county gives you some money. But yet I'm a tourist? No. And that's my issue with it.
Well, it's not Carolina Beach anymore. It's now like Property Beach, right?
Well, they're trying to be Wrightsville, right? They want to make it exclusive. They won't admit it.
Exclusivity with brand name resort luxury accommodations. So everything that made Carolina Beach cool is about to get raised.
Like the boardwalk.
Right, because you can fit 2 really big hotels where the boardwalk is and make a lot more money.
Never, ever admit it, but they want that boardwalk gone, right? They could build, like you said, or they could do condos over retail, right? Mm-hmm. Which they kind of sort of did right along the boardwalk.
Where the number of those buildings are double. Yeah.
So look, we all get it. But what happens is people like you and me, we don't go anymore. And, you think about it from a financial perspective for the average family right now. Times are tough, right? Gas is high, food is high, and all that. The one thing you could do would go to the beach, which is free. The beach itself is free, and take your family and have a nice day. And if you were a local like we are and be able to buy a pass, it costs you a couple $100 more than fair. I have no issue with that. That's been taken away. And then what ends up happening is we talked about this on the Brunswick show last week with small businesses. They're losing a ton of money. And that adds up. And what's going to be really interesting is come wintertime, because I believe they suspended the parking for December. I'm not sure on the dates, but it's coming back in like January, February. I won't go down there. And there's some restaurants down there that my wife and I would go to frequently. There's some really good restaurants there, or some of the shops. We used to take friends down. They would come stay with us to visit. To go to the beach and all that. We used to take them to Carolina. I don't anymore. That's more thousands of dollars that they're losing, and it's just they don't get it.
Yeah, and I won't go down to Carolina Beach unless two things happen. One, I'm getting paid, and two, parking is provided.
Yeah. Well, you find, like if you're going down there for gigs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to make $100 and pay 25 of it in parking.
Which, you're kind of talking about the effect it's had on employees.
Oh, yeah. Employees making $15 an hour are having to pay $5 an hour for parking. They're giving up a third of their income just for the privilege of parking their car. I am so upset with Carolina Beach.
Well, you and me both.
There's been two people that provided an excellent solution based on another resort vacation area that has had this problem. They solved it by doing exactly this solution, where your employees are given their own parking, and the security that you already have on the island is kind of your golf cart shuttle for your employees.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
That's great.
So that way they're parked 500 miles away from everything else, and they get to and from their vehicles safely because they're escorted by the security company, right? All of your premium parking next to the places that you want to be is already paid for, right, by your tourists. That's where you want the tourists to get fleeced. That's right. That's your cash cow. You want as many of those parking places available. And then you have the additional security of your employees who aren't going to get stalked, right? Because, most of these seasonal employees are very young. And when you're younger, you're attractive and more vulnerable to some of our, hey, man, you got $1 kind of people. Right?
Like,
so now, right. And so they're safe. Parking is now eliminated because the employees don't have to pay for parking. It's subsidized by the very people that you're actually trying to fleece for parking.
Right.
And then you would also have the ability with those employee parking passes to say, you know what, I want to bring my family on a vacation.
Well, they could, like in Carolina, they could park the employees at, say, the high school or the grade school. It's not that far away. And like you said, shuttle them.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the cost to the town? Nothing, really. A little bit of electricity to pay for the golf cart.
And the other thing I would do is standardize the parking, because apparently you can buy a pass and it doesn't work in this parking lot but works in that one. And if you buy a pass for this parking lot, it doesn't work for that one because this one's town managed, privately owned. This one's town owned and privately managed. This one is somebody's driveway that they have a little parking thing popped up in case you want to park there.
Yep.
It's nuts. There's no homogeneous nature to this at all.
It's almost like they want it that way too. It's.
Oh yeah, because
go ahead.
The tickets, right? Because it's going to generate boatloads of money if they're not able to say, "Hey, did you do this or not do that?"
Well, I mean, I got a ticket down there because I parked and my tire was on the white line, not over it, touching it, and I got a $50 ticket. And I'm like, what?
Oh, this must have been during COVID when they didn't have near as many other normal visitors.
And I'm like, and they actually had pictures of it. Well, you were on the white line.
Like the photo camera, the red light camera?
Yes, and they actually took pictures of it. And I'm like,
you bastard.
You got to be kidding me. I mean, and the car next to me could get into their spot. It wasn't like I was blocking anything. And I'm like, they're just trying to generate revenue. And the cost to me to fight it wasn't worth it. And they know that, $50, right? My time is worth more than that, because I would have had to go to court, fight it, blah, blah, blah. I just paid it. And they know that's what most people are going to do.
Oh, yeah. Same with the red light cameras. They don't realize, nobody realizes that if you read the fine print, it is unenforceable.
Well, it's been found illegal to use them. Yeah. Courts have ruled on that. But most people just pay the fine.
Yep. It's certainly if they're from out of town, because they don't want to come back.
Exactly.
And with the strong wording that makes it seem like they're going to do something if you don't pay it. And I don't know.
Your license will be suspended. No, it won't.
Your
Right.
privilege to drive in North Carolina will be suspended if you apply for a license, in which case you were only here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
It's
It's like
the punishments are silly.
it's insane where we're at as a society with all this stuff now. It's all about money. When it ultimately comes down to it, it's all about money. But hey, it keeps the guys screaming for $1 away from Carolina Beach. I've actually never seen one there.
Not a Carolina Beach. Well, not often because it's difficult to get to. The thing about getting to Carolina Beach, and I would like to see this enforced, is if you are on a moped or a scooter, you are not allowed on any street that has a speed limit of 45 or greater.
Right.
How's that?
That's countywide though.
Well, it's not even a rule at all.
I thought it was.
Nope. No, I see people zipping down there on their little 25 mile an hour. You got two large people on a little leaf blower on Carolina Beach. It happens here on 17. I'm heading home, right? 11 o'clock at night. There's this guy, and why are you wearing a black jacket on a moped at night?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And he's doing 25 in a 55 zone, and people are routinely passing me doing 65 and 70.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from being obese or having COVID or diabetes, if you want to live a short life, that's a great way to do it. I'll smoke and last longer than you will.
It's like I always see the joggers, they're out in twilight, either morning or night, in black. You can't see them. It's like, what are you thinking? Do you have a death wish?
And we're going to dance right on that white line.
Yeah, it's great you want to improve your health. You're out jogging. Love it. Put some clothes on that we can see, please, especially older people like me. Because more than once, I've had the scare of my life driving along and you don't see them.
I'm shopping for a train horn for my car.
They have them.
Yes, they do. My car has limited space, but I mean, the next time that I run across somebody doing 25 in a 55, 60, 70 zone, they're going to get the train horn.
You must love bicyclists, too, then.
Bicyclists I have no problem with. That's a completely different animal.
Really?
That is a completely different animal. Yes, that is a non-motorized vehicle.
Because one of the things that
that's a pedestrian vehicle. I still think it's dangerous, and I think but usually, here's the difference. Here's the primary difference. A bicyclist is usually an adult. They're usually aware, they're health conscious, they're actually aware of their surroundings, they know what they're doing.
If they have a brain.
People on scooters have usually exhibited such poor judgment as to lose their license due to a number of DUIs and other judgment-related issues.
Yeah,
I don't want them on the street at all. I don't even want them in society, to be honest with you, but, driving then that tells me that if you're on a scooter doing 25 in the lane in a 55-mile-an-hour road, that you do not have the brain power necessary to make appropriate choices in this environment.
I just like how you differentiate between them and the bicyclist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a cyclist. I was a crazy-ass cyclist. I mean, I destroyed a couple of mountain bikes in an urban environment. I mean, you thought parkour was cool. You should have seen what I could do on a mountain bike.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about Carolina Beach, going over the bridge on a bicycle, you're legally able to take the right lane. It's right there.
Because there's nowhere else to go.
Right. And people get so mad. I don't know, it's probably 3-4 months ago. A guy was in the middle lane and people are honking and screaming and yelling at him.
Being in the middle lane is out of order.
He was in the middle of the lane on the right.
Oh,
so he
I
was
see.
perfectly fine where he was.
Yeah.
So I actually got behind him to protect him because people were screaming. Then of course they started screaming at me. And he was not going slow, but you're climbing a bridge. You're not going to be going 50 miles an hour.
No, you're spinning it too, man.
Yeah.
You're going fast enough to not fall over.
It's funny though that, they want to encourage bicycling around here, but people they'll run your ass right over. And they don't realize if you do run somebody's ass over, you are going to jail for many years.
Oh, we've had a number of hit and runs where people got away with it for a while.
They do. But there's so many cameras around now.
Yep, we find you.
Yeah, they find them more often than they don't now. Back in the day when there were no cameras, yeah. But now there's cameras everywhere, which is a whole other discussion.
Oh, man. In fact, it's almost 9:30 in the morning.
I just saw that. I just happened to look down and went, oh, we went over again.
Which Dr. Cahoon is not with us this morning. He is away. I believe he's on a vacation, like a study vacation kind of thing. So that part's not a problem. The part that is a problem is the the 750 milliliters of diuretic caffeine drink.
You mean this stuff?
Yeah. And it is now looking
Mine's
quickly.
almost empty.
It is now begging for an exit. So I'm gonna take a break. If you're still here when I get back, awesome. If not,
No, I got to run at myself. So
okay. Well, when we come back, Dan won't be with us. I will.
I will. No, I'm sorry.
And
I
then,
got a podcast to film.
well, you better get busy with that. And with that, I will see you, if not next Tuesday, sometime soon.
We will. We'll be chatting.
All right, man. See you soon.
All righty.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go nowhere. The Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Be right back. Don't go nowhere. You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at bigtalker.live.
Teachers and parents, the North Carolina Symphony is here to support you as you carry on the education of your children and students. Take your kids on a free virtual field trip to the Symphony with a virtual education concert and companion student book. Go on a virtual journey to learn what makes music music with music by William Grant Still, Beethoven, Brahms, and more. Access the free video and student book with password 1932 at ncsymphony.org/virtual.
O'Leary's Automotive Repair has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want, by asking for Big Talker.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. The Board of Trustees and staff for Thalian Hall Center for the Performing Arts announced on Tuesday that Executive and Artistic Director Tony Rivenbark died on Monday night. Rivenbark was the first and only executive director of Thalian Hall. Not only a legend in the Cape Fear, Rivenbark helped communities across the country revitalize historic theaters and cultivate art scenes. Wilmington police are looking for a suspect in an alleged armed robbery. Just after 6 p.m. Tuesday evening, a man entered the Memories of a Child retail store at 6932 Market Street. He displayed a gun and left with cash. WPD officers conducted a track with the K-9 unit, and the Criminal Investigation Division is currently investigating this as an armed robbery. The suspect is a white male in his 40s or 50s and was wearing a black hoodie with USMC on the front at the time of the robbery. The man has blue eyes and was wearing a mask he is believed to have left in a vehicle. In Wilmington, city leaders are considering revamping an ordinance on panhandling. During Tuesday night's council meeting, city staff shared a presentation about the problem. City Attorney John Joy made it clear that panhandling was a constitutional right upheld by the First Amendment, so outlawing it entirely is not an option. Right now, the city is working on enforcing laws where panhandlers impede traffic and coming up with a set of recommendations for council to consider for updating the city's panhandling ordinance. And a number of communities in the Cape Fear will benefit from the state budget recently signed by Governor Roy Cooper. The budget offers funding to the countywide Community Development Corporation in Navassa, the Bolivia Volunteer Fire Department, and capital improvements for two places in Southport, the Cape Fear Regional Jetport and Dosher Memorial Hospital. Bladen County is also getting $3.5 million for economic development. Additional funding is earmarked for capital improvements in Bladenboro, Caswell Beach, and Ocean Isle Beach. For more on these stories, you can head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with the Storm Track 3 forecast. Get ready for another toasty one here in the Cape Fears. Our high temperatures climb into the low 90s away from the coast, upper 80s for those coastal areas. And thanks to gusty southwest winds, we have a high risk for rip currents for south-facing beaches later today. As we head into the afternoon hours, we do have another chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms to fire up. Not expecting everyone to get in on the action, but as we head into the overnight hours tonight, remaining warm and muggy with temperatures falling to the middle and upper 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Folks, you must visit Angie's Fresh Produce. 4447 Long Beach Road, Southport. Beautiful fresh produce at a great price. Angie's has just about every vegetable you want. In-store shopping and pickup, and all wheelchair accessible. Call Angie's Fresh Produce at 910-477-9068.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. for Objection to the Form, covering civil litigation, real estate issues, and intellectual property. That's Objection to the Form, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Folks, the sad truth of it is most of what we're seeing in the news cycle is just noise, and it's recycled noise at that. Nothing informative, nothing that actually helps us discern the times that we live in. That's why we started doing Heard Tell. Every morning right here on Big Talker Network, 7 a.m. with a replay at 3 p.m., we talk and discuss the issues of the day, culture and politics with knowledgeable guests, no yelling, no caterwauling, just grown folk talk about the issues that matter. Join me, Andrew Donaldson, every weekday morning for Heard Tell.
Oh, look, see, I push the button, and then it goes like that. Hey, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad, right here on the Big Talker Network. We have a special guest this morning, a celebrity call-in friend of ours, Mr. Chad Adams. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Pat Sajak was joining us or something. So
no, he retired.
Morning!
Now, we were discussing before the show a little bit during the break. I don't understand what the ordinance was or what's going on or how it even became covered under... Anyway, begging for money on the streets.
Yeah, it's an avocation these days. I mean, and, you can't go almost to any city, whether it's Charlotte or... Yeah, it was funny. I saw folks in Hickory on the on-ramps or off-ramps off 40 that were quote-unquote begging. And, it's this cardboard cutouts, need money for feed family food. They'll have a puppy with them sometimes, or their kids are with them. The funniest one I saw was, I was in Greensboro, this was a few weeks back, and was eating at a Zaxby's, free plug for Zaxby's there. And so I was going to eat at Zaxby's. My wife and I were going to Zaxby's. And it said in the big kiosk in front of Zaxby's, it said, need help, apply inside. And right underneath that sign, in the shade of that sign, was a guy panhandling with two kids. And they were panhandling for money. And they literally under the sign that says need help inside. And you talk to these folks, most of them, not all, because you can't. That's one of the problems we have in our society. We yell at each other because we think everybody fits in something. And so we say all instead of most. And in the case of panhandling, and Kevin Maurer, formerly of the Star News, did some stellar reporting on this years ago where he went to these, homeless, quote unquote, homeless camps, and interviewed a bunch of them and just was like, hey, so what's going on here with these guys? And they were making, $20, $40, $60 an hour, and you offer them help, and they don't want help. They want to. A lot of them have, some of them have drug habits, some of them have drinking habits, and they want to support their lifestyle. They don't want anyone telling them what to do, so they don't want to be in a conventional sense help. I mean, they don't want to be helped because we've got all these government programs. We've got there's so many jobs.
Well, they get their help from the drug man.
Well, they also get tax-free income. They're getting a lot of cash. They're not reporting that cash, and that's kind of the way it works for them. So. At some point it becomes, and most of them, they kind of know the rules. In other words, they know what they need to know to function in that world. And so you'll notice they do a good job, most of them. They don't come up to your car and knock on the windshield. They just have their sign, and you can see this evidence all over Wilmington. I mean, it's amazing how many different folks are doing this now in Wilmington. And Wilmington does have a serious problem with it. And it's an implied, on the one hand, there's a free speech issue. You should have the right to stand on the street corner and preach if you want to. At the same time, and beg for money if you want to. But it's not really begging, is it? I mean, you're playing on people's sympathies as if you are in a bad way.
Well, I consider it begging even on Trump's website.
Oh, politicians?
Anything like that where they're asking you for, that's begging for money. And if the guy's standing on a street corner with a sign that says, "I just moved to town, please help," my question to him is, why did you move here if you didn't have a job? Why?
The weather's nice, dude.
Oh, I get that. You're going to pay for that. I'm paying for
put
that.
them on a bus and send them up here. So you think you are. I mean, in a way, you're paying for infrastructure to help people.
I'm paying the rent to be here. I'm working jobs to pay rent. Right. I'm doing my thing to be here. When this guy walks up with $1 or asking me for $1, is it out of order for me to ask him to do something in exchange for that $1? Like maybe do a flip, do something, set yourself on fire, entertain me.
Yeah, but again, you're wanting to pretend that these people want to do those things. And
well, that's just setting a boundary. You want my money? That's cool. In order to get my money, you have to earn it.
As long as people reward that behavior, they will continue to do it.
So can we punish the people that are rewarding?
That's interesting. Have a cop stand out there, and if you give them money, punish them. Hey, say, did you fill out a W-2 for that person? I mean, did you fill out a W-9 for that person? And that's the thing. People are good in general. Okay, there's a lot of bad players out there. There's a lot of people that have become apathetic.
The closer you get to their family, the better they are. Does that make sense?
I think to their community, to their home, to their lifestyle,
to their tribe.
My point is, a lot of people that give to those people are they're nice people, and some of them are a little naive, and they want to believe in their hearts and in many of their charitable hearts that they are genuinely helping somebody who's down on their luck. The signs, these people are very good at portraying, I'm down on my luck. I'm a veteran. I have kids. Look at my dog. I have a pet. I don't see that as much or need. And how many times have you been approached at a gas station with someone that says, "Hey, I just need $1 or $2 to get some gas because my car's up the street." The scams are multiple. They are prevalent. They are consistent.
Sophomoric.
There's so many. Even in downtown Wilmington, what's remarkable about that is you get approached by some, and I don't carry cash. It's just not something I do. And people approach me and say, "Hey, you got $1 to spare," which is an implied guilt, right? There's some guilt there. Do you have money to spare? Well, if I did, I'd just throw it out in the streets or set it on fire or something. I'm kidding. I would never do that. But the point being is you have a bunch to spare as if everyone's running around with a lot of extra cash. And then the next phase is, well, you're selfish and stingy and you don't help people out. But they have a square, meaning, oh, that's okay. If you don't have cash, I can accept credit cards. Now, that's a whole nother level of sophistication for begging. So you actually have a trackable transaction. You're collecting credit cards. It's being dumped into a bank account somewhere because it's not cash. So all of a sudden, the level of sophistication for someone who is allegedly a beggar, who portrays being a beggar, that's a pretty sophisticated operation if you can take credit cards.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't heard of this.
Oh, no, I've had it happen several times in downtown Wilmington, where, they approach you and they're like, "Hey, and that's okay. You can donate right here on my phone."
Well, how about if we okay, so the discussion is on the ordinance. How about if we allow a response in the ordinance where if you beg me for money, ask me for $1, I can respond with free speech punched through the throat?
Well, no.
Damn.
You can't codify violence. I mean,
that would be
unless you're in the military.
Well, there was a movie called The Purge that kind of worked along those lines.
Which is a movie. Okay, that's not real life.
Damn.
That's a dystopian future, right? It's a way to deal with our inner
dystopian or utopian? Are you sure?
No, completely dystopian. So anyway, the point of this is that everyone else. Now, I want you to let's go to food trucks for a minute.
Okay.
Because what we're talking about is you mentioned free speech. I have the right to go out and protest. I have the right to say, vote for this, don't vote for that. I can't stand this scumbag politician.
The end is near.
unless you're Julia Bozeman and you can run off to Italy and not have to worry about getting arrested. That's totally different. The chairman of the county commission runs off to Italy, contempt of court. When she comes back, she's supposed to report to Wake County Detention Center for the weekend, for a couple of weekends. I can't wait to see how this all goes down. But let's go back to the panhandling. Every individual out there, and let's talk about food trucks, but there are constraints on every business. I have a couple small businesses. A food truck is a small business, and let's make the argument that people who beg are operating a small business.
Amen.
There are rules and regulations for every business that's out there. I can't have a certain sign. I can't put a sign here. I have to register with the city. I have to pay taxes for my payroll. There's 1,000 different minutiae, and it scares a lot of people from being in business. It's doable, and I advise everyone to become an entrepreneur. It's a great thing to do in America. And food trucks find themselves in the crosshairs because they technically have their business on wheels. They can be anywhere. They don't have to pay for a parking lot. They don't have to pay. They do have to abide by health. They have to
they still get inspected, right?
The same thing restaurants. But again, they can set up anywhere. Now, a lot of existing structured restaurants don't like food trucks because instantly competition can come right down the street. So they encourage
down the street. They could be in the parking lot.
They can be in the parking lot, but they want to pass ordinances against food trucks to make it more difficult for food trucks to operate. That's using the government as a weapon against your competition. It's weaponizing government. It's a horrible thing to do.
Oh, politicians do it all the time, but yeah.
They do. But food trucks have become kind of a symbol of entrepreneurship. It really has. It's the creativity, the diversity of food offerings, food truck courts that people will set up at different times. You see them at construction sites. They're remarkable. You can take the food to you. You can sit outside, if you're in Bolivia or something in the middle of the country for Brunswick County and a food truck pops up in the parking lot, all of a sudden people don't have to get in their cars and drive off. You would think the green energy people would just love food trucks because you keep cars off the road.
Like we do at Voice and Pen on Wednesday nights. You can come and enjoy original music, and dinner's there by a food truck. It's a different one every week, so you're not limited to the same menu every time you join.
Shameless plug, self-promotion. Love it. Great job, TK. Well
Working
done.
on that
now. Let's. That's good. But the point being is to expect a group of individuals to not have to abide by or have repercussions from operating their business outside of the realm of government is just foolish. Look, I'm not advocating for more government. What I am saying is, don't think that you are going to bypass the system in place by begging on the side of the road. I guess you could make permits. They have to get permits, but these people are very territorial. And if you don't believe me, try going out there and begging next to one of them. Try just doing it yourself and say, hey, I've got an extra hour to spend. I want to go stand out in the blaring sun and beg on right there when you come into Wilmington on 17, or when you come into Wilmington across the bridge there. There's always somebody at that intersection as it becomes Dawson Street.
Oh, yeah.
There's always someone there. If you go down to Castle Street, where Castle Street and Oleander becomes the next street, I can't remember Ross' name, and next to Castle, there's always people. There are predictable places where the same people set up every time. At Carr and Randall Parkway, there are people set up. They're everywhere. And it is a problem for the city because it makes people not want to go where they have to feel guilty by not giving money to someone who may not even need it.
Right.
In most cases, doesn't.
They just don't want to work. They just don't want to be an adult and do the things
they want
required.
to work. They don't want, right. They want to maintain a lifestyle that they want without having to, because there are plenty of assistance programs for people who need them. There are plenty of places that people they can get on their feet. There's a dearth. If you can stand out. Now, the thing, back to the Zaxby story. If you can stand out in the blaring sun of July in the heat during the middle of the day, you are healthy enough to work in an air-conditioned environment. You are. You're certainly healthy enough to work in an air-conditioned environment.
And the work isn't going to be so difficult as to, like, flipping fry baskets or sweeping the floor.
There's a million different places people need help. Even restaurateurs, they desperately need wait staff, and those wait staff don't have to cook. They take an order, they deliver a plate, and they get compensated for that. And there's tips. If you look at these people that are panhandling are searching for tip money. Well, if you want to work in a restaurant, you can get tips. You work harder, you get better tips. You get better at your craft. So there's a million ways to live, thrive, and survive in this country. You're only limited by your imagination and desire to get from point A to point B. But panhandling often comes with a host of other issues that are attached to it, and unfortunately, that's where Wilmington has a thriving, and I say that in the most bizarre way.
Yeah.
It has a thriving homeless population, and that avocation has become far too prevalent, and it's hurting the city, not helping the city.
And it's only being encouraged and rewarded over and over, so it's not like there's any incentive to, as it were, grow up.
It's not maturing. It's becoming more of a poor reflection of itself. It could be petulant, but they are very good about knowing the rules. They don't approach your car because that kicks into castle doctrine and people can feel threatened. They just hold up a sign, and they are really good about. How a boy, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying this. a man's best friend is a remarkable animal, and where the hell is Chad going with this? But they are keenly aware of patterns of human behavior. They know their owner's patterns of behavior. They notice these patterns, and it looks like there's an emotional response in which, wow, how does my dog know that I'm getting ready to take it for a walk? I didn't say anything. And they notice, different things about the way you all of a sudden, maybe you put your purse in a certain place, and that's a pattern you always do before you take it for a walk. Or maybe you put your phone and you put your glasses down and you shut your laptop. And they know that means, hey, I'm getting ready to go for a walk. They're remarkably attuned after 30,000 years of being our best friend. They're really good about reading us. They're remarkable. If they could speak, they'd be the best psychics around because they could do a cold reading on you in an instant. And they can sense your heartbeat. They can sense your emotional state. They know when you're agitated.
So what you're saying is husbands could learn a lot from that.
Husbands know how to read their wives. They just choose not to. That's a different thing.
Okay.
And that puts them in bad ways. So but panhandlers are really good. If you think of yourself as a panhandler and you're looking at a string of traffic, you have noticed certain patterns of behavior. Do the people at stoplights make eye contact with you? Do they start to roll their windows down? Do they ignore eye contact with you, roll their windows up?
Do they lean over to the passenger seat into their purse?
Do they start? Yes. So there's a million different things they read instantly, and they play on that. They're playing on people's emotion. And to your point very early in this conversation, it's no different than what politicians do. It's no different than what salespeople do. The difference is there's an exchange of a good or service for that.
Right. So do a flip.
So do a flip. Yeah. There's no. The only work involved in panhandling is playing on people's sympathies to further your own goal of supporting often and not always, but drug and alcohol habits. And it's not a contribution to society in any measurable way.
Mm-mm. Nope. And I think that's where we get the most frustrated with it, because they're wanting to take advantage of one of the rights, that is of free speech, without offering anything in return for that right.
Yeah. They're diminishing the role of protest. They're diminishing free speech. They're diminishing a right
of expression.
Sure,
but that's what it falls under, and that's as you just said, that freedom of expression is being hijacked for nefarious, malicious, malingering, if you will, purposes. It's not to if you're protesting to change.
It's an elusive way to regulate, though. It's a very difficult aspect of society to regulate. Had we figured out a way to do it, it wouldn't be so prevalent. But I
think the permitting is awesome. I think that's awesome. That with the W-9 or whatever it is, I think that would curtail a lot of it. It would require people to go underground.
We make people report. They're supposed to report when you get tips as a restaurant wait staff. You're supposed to report those tips. There's a form. You fill it out. Whenever you get cash, if you operate a retail establishment, you're supposed to report that cash, and you're taxed on that cash. So I do think forcing, do you have a permit? If you don't have a permit, you need to go get one, or I'll arrest you. So if a food truck can be forced to have a permit, So should someone who plies their trade on the street.
And you have to report your income every day. And since you can't be trusted, you're going to need to go somewhere so that your money is accounted for.
I mean, I have a little more respect for the folks when I visit Costa Rica or the tropics. You know, those people on the streets are usually selling something. You know, there used to
like
be
an
people,
orange,
a lot of these
right?
Panhandlers used to sell newspapers. A lot of them, they'd make money that was an honest transaction. They sold newspapers. But there's nothing to it. We've just become very spoiled panhandlers. And only in America do panhandlers have a car and a cell phone and probably, an HD TV.
Oh, yeah. That was the other thing. Is like, if you really need money that bad and you're coming at me with a cell phone that's nicer than mine, yeah, we can sell your cell phone. You can get you a $100 Walmart phone. Does everything you need to do.
If you ever want an eye-opening experience, and it takes a little digging, but it's absolutely, I remember having discussions with a few folks back in my radio days in Wilmington that were doing this. Look at any given intersection, and there are traffic studies on every one of these intersections about the number of cars that go through a given intersection at a given time. A lot of that information is used for marketing purposes, so that you want to put a Burger King or a fast food restaurant or a strip mall
or a billboard.
Those traffic studies are in place so that stoplights, and the design of stoplights is another fascinating scientific endeavor in which you determine protected lefts, how long they are, when you have a stoplight, how long it goes for, how long does the yellow before it turns red. There's a lot that goes into that. Now, the reason I say that is if you place a given person, let's just say an intersection gets 20,000 cars a day. Or 10, and that's not a lot. It's really not that much. If you consider the number of cars that go down Market Street, College, 17.
Over the bridge.
If you look over the bridge, look at those traffic studies, thousands of cars a day. And then you just extrapolate from that the percentage of time that a stoplight catches a given segment of that. And you just cut it in half or a third or whatever the number is. You can look at the number of cars that are stopped at a given intersection in just 1 hour. In just 1 hour, how many cars are stopped at this intersection? Or next time you're at a stoplight, look around and count how many cars are at that stoplight with you. It's very difficult to do because it's often a lot. But the point being, if they just get
a percentage,
one car out of 20 that gives them money, and that intersection flips over 60 times an hour, they're making $60 an hour. You don't think of it in terms like that because you're just thinking at it the moment that you're at that stoplight and someone gives them something. But if you multiply that by a day, these people oftentimes do make $20, $40, $60 or more an hour, not to mention donations of food and other things that people hand them out the window or gift cards, to restaurants and stuff like that. And I've seen that done. So it's a shame that's an avocation.
It's a shame that it's not a shame.
It should be. And it happens because people reward it. Mm-hmm. It happens. If you've got a drug habit and you're looking for an easy way to get a cash fix, what's the quickest way to get a cash fix?
Cardboard sign and Sharpie.
There you go.
Man.
There you go.
And you don't have to learn, you don't have to read, you don't have to spell, you don't have to stress, you don't have to be held to account for anything.
Now, it's a sad state
This
of
is starting
existence.
to sound like a better career every minute because I still get health care, right? Indigent care, health care.
Well, TK, you were doing a remarkable job of helping pick up trash. You were pushing a movement to help pick up trash along corridors in Wilmington, in addition to the Adopt a Highway program. Just look at the number of the cars that went by. Just the number of cars going by, and every one of those is a potential client if you're panhandling.
Man. So I could be doing double duty, as I could be picking up trash while begging for money.
Pick up trash, and then when the stoplight turns red,
And then
hey,
you could and you can just walk by, and instead of actually begging for money, you just say, "Hey, is there any trash in your car you want to get rid of, including money? I'm here for you."
And yet we have restaurants and trades and almost every area of business begging for employees right now.
Maybe they should be on the street corners.
Begging for employees.
Begging for employees.
Help me hire this guy. Have a sign say, this guy won't work for me.
Right. I offered this guy $15 an hour, and he spit in my face.
Yeah. or $20 or $25 an hour. I mean, a lot of these have signing bonuses that are obscene. I was at Cherokee, and I didn't stay at the hotel that particular weekend. It was jacked up prices, but I went to eat in the hotel, and I was asking because we could barely get into the restaurant, not because they were packed out, but mainly because they didn't have enough staff to open the restaurants up fully. And I said, man, it's hard to find staff up here. I would think this would be one of the best places to work in a depressed area like Western North Carolina. And they said, oh, it's the worst thing. There's a $3,000 signing bonus. And I said,
oh
so
my
you have to
God.
work like 6 months to get it. They said, no, the $3,000 is in your first check.
Damn.
To wait tables.
And how long? I mean, the attrition rate for that had to be off the chain.
No, it was just crazy. They can't. They want staff.
Could I be like at least 90 days?
The 3 month clawback. You have to work there 90 days, but still, I mean, you get it in your first check. And there was a kid there, the one that waited at our table, great kid from Western Carolina. He was at which is now like $500 a year because the legislature changed the price. So he's $500 a year for tuition, and he's working a restaurant, making good money at the casino, but only half the restaurant's open.
So wait a minute. His sign-in bonus paid for 6 semesters?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I wish they had that when I was a kid because I am still hemorrhaging cash to pay for a loan that has not diminished in value.
State, I think, it seems like Pembroke, Elizabeth City State, Western Carolina, they're part of the UNC system. They all would go to $500, I think, a year, or $500 a year for tuition.
That's wicked.
Maybe a semester or a year. It's pretty cheap. They subsidize the heck out of those 3. They just want more students there because there aren't as many students.
Because, man, I would just learn new things like welding just because I don't know how.
Oh, man. If you were a welder, right now, I'll tell you another big avocation if you get, because no one does it, jewelry repair. There are so few people doing jewelry repair right now.
Man, that just sounds that just sounds stressful and like Bridezilla, Mom of Bridezilla.
People who do it well, man, there are so few people who do it, and they are just able to write a ticket. They can work when they want to.
Does Seaside Jeweler do repair?
Oh yeah, we do full repairs. We do custom designs, repairs, everything.
You should make a commercial for that so we can air it.
Oh, well played. Now, for people listening to TK, they don't realize that he's calling me out on my laziness, not having got those commercials corrected into him. So, well played. He's a 2 in there.
Like I said, man, I've been practicing. I've been in the batter's box swinging.
Yeah, did you see, by the way, what happened yesterday with and not jumping topics a little bit?
No.
What happened in D.C. yesterday with our members of Congress, including one from North Carolina, Alma Adams, getting arrested, quasi, quote-unquote, arrested at the outside the Supreme Court?
No. What?
So what's really funny, they got I think 12 members of Congress, L.R. Omar, or Villar, I can't remember her name, and AOC and Alma Adams and Rashida Tlaib and the squad. They all got arrested. But what's funny, the funniest part of this was that, like when AOC, who apparently walked out of a staff meeting.
Abortion protest outside. Oh, my God, dude. No way.
So they got arrested, but she faked being in handcuffs. So she holds her hands behind her back. She's walking away. This is Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes.
And then holds her hand, picks one of her hands up and gives like the salute of power, and then puts her hand back behind her back as if she's in handcuffs. Most miraculous, handcuff escape in history.
No.
And then
Roger Rabbit.
Faked being in. That's a good one, but I'm not a tune, or that they aren't tunes.
I can't do it unless it's funny.
Well, true. Now, what's funny to me about what they faked being in handcuffs. They wanted the photo op to look like they were standing up to the man. And remember that they hate the Capitol Police. Capitol Police were very nice to them. But the only arrest I know that you're not in handcuffs. They walked away, but they put their hands behind their back like they were in handcuffs to get the photo op. And it's this kind of stuff that undermines, those are the type of things. And the fact that the mainstream news didn't cover that part of the story. See, they got arrested, and they show the photo op exactly the way they wanted it to be shown. But it was a fake photo op. It was completely faked. Trumped up, as you would say. Remember Trump with the Bible upside down?
Yeah, I was just going to say, two wrongs don't make a right, but two rights make an airplane. So, obviously, something is out of control here.
Well, it's this photo,
It's the optics. Is that what they call it? The visual.
Social media is ruining in many ways, the way in which we have debates. There are things in society we need to be talking about. Climate change is a good example of that, and we don't talk about that. And let's be, look, Chad's peddling climate change. No, I'm not. My perspective is that I'm tired of the sky is falling stuff that we've heard. The 70s, it was a coming ice age. In the 80s, it was global warming. We had 12 years to act. In the 90s, it was the same thing. Al Gore's movie, The Inconvenient Truth. We got 10 years or it's all over. And now it's 2022. Oh, we got 10 years or it's all over. They always they always make it a big deal in the summer. And yet if in the wintertime we have record cooling or anything like that, and you point out to say, hey, you're putting out a weather event, don't confuse weather with climate change. But in the summer when it's broiling hot, they always try to see these heat waves indicative of climate change. And so we end up not having a debate because one side doesn't want to have that debate. Sea level rise. You look around here, I see pictures from the 30s, and if I point that out, that's not, Oak Island, you can't use that as sea level rise. See, we've renourished the beaches. Well, that's because beaches move over time. Over 80, 100 years, beaches move. There's rivers that move stuff. Nature moves stuff. And if you start saying, well, okay, so do you want the government to be in charge of the climate? And if you do, what's the magic temperature? Were we better off when there was a mile of ice over Chicago or when it gets to 90 degrees in Chicago? I mean, more people still die of cold than of heat. Are we better off when you can grow crops in Greenland? Because it's called Greenland for a reason. It's got a lot of ice on it, but a long time ago it didn't have any ice on it. It was green. So are we better off when we can grow more food for people and we have a higher quality of life? I don't know. And when you look at polar bear studies, if you point out, hey, the polar bears are doing well, this is good news, they get angry at you. Oh, see, you're misstating stuff. And I'm like, we ought to be able to talk about this. And the final piece of that climate change discussion ought to be, do you really believe that humans are stupid enough to just stay in one place, even if you believed everything climatological cultists tell you? Do you really believe that if your house is endangered, if you really believe at sea level, that you're going to stay in that house when it gets swallowed by the ocean? Are we so dumb that we wouldn't react to the incremental changes that occur? But
Yes.
Instead, we create the hyperbole that we're all going to die in this kind of instantaneous. If you want proof of that, there's a movie called 444. I think it's the name of it. It's is it Dennis Leary? No, it's William Dafoe. William Dafoe. Dennis Leary, William Dafoe. They kind of look alike now to get older. But Dafoe's in it. And the whole premise of the movie is that the Earth is going to end at a very specific time. And the events leading up to that very specific time, there's people that commit suicide, there's people that get very religious. We're all going to die at a given point in time. And the news media that they often show in the background, it's so funny. The entire movie, whenever they show the news media in the background, they're always saying, well, Al Gore was right, and it's just a shame, and the world's going to be over at 4:44 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time. It's a very specific time. And it's just funny that they adopt these lines, and those lines become real ways of looking at things. I'll give you an example of a beautiful thing that's happening down here at Oak Island. My father very proudly worked, and my mother did too, to a lesser extent, but my father worked for the sea turtle program for about 2 decades. He would get up every morning during the season when they would lay eggs, and he would walk around 2.5 miles of beach. It was a 4-mile round trip, and would spot nests. And he was one of the only people that was trusted to actually probe for a nest because he never damaged a turtle egg. He had a way, I guess he's just a weird engineer brain, that he would probe down and could find out specifically where a nest was so that you could put a cage over the top of it and protect it from foxes and stuff like that. The result of that, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, those turtles, some of which were saved by that program, are now laying on the beaches. So this, you would think, would be a golden, beautiful thing to talk about, that Oak Island and Castle Beach together have about over 200 nests. That's a remarkable, there were years where there were only 30 to 60 nests on that entire stretch. Now we're over 200 nests. So clearly the program has been beneficial because turtles come back to the same place that they're from to lay eggs.
Right.
And this is happening all over. This is a beautiful thing. This is a success story. I'll give you another success story. all of the Shark Week and all of the stuff since Jaws and Blue Water White Death in the 70s and all of the documentaries and people's fascination with sharks, we now have almost record numbers of sharks. If you look around, you see all these videos of the drone footage of all these sharks that are patrolling. Wait, that's success. Instead, oh, no, it's shark attacks and everything. Well, you have more sharks. You have an apex predator. You have more of them, more sea turtles, more sharks. Polar bears are doing well. So we've got to be thrilled about the fact that we're making a positive impact on natural settings. Bears are doing very well. Wild turkey. When I was a kid, and you were a kid in North Carolina, you didn't see many deer or wild turkey. Now they're everywhere. And we don't have any apex predators. We have some coyote out there, and they're in every county in North Carolina. But we should be like, wow, now we're actually killing deer because there's so many of them. Bald Head Island had to kill like 60 or 70 of them, haul the carcasses off to feed the homeless. So, wow, deer are doing fantastic. So it's weird that we never look at success of our interventions in the natural world. In Yellowstone, finally, they got the government out of it and realized that, hey, we need forest fires once in a while because there's certain things that don't grow unless there's a fire that comes through. We get underbrush. If we clear out underbrush or let the fires burn the underbrush, it doesn't burn, it's hot. It doesn't sterilize the earth. So there's a lot. And again, I've gone way off on a tangent, but my point is, if you want to learn about the natural world, that's fantastic. You want to be a part of it, that's great. But don't think that you, as a human, are going to have a global thermostat through government interaction in the UN, that Greta Thunberg is going to sit out there with a magic thermostat and set the magic temperature for the Earth at any given point in time. It just isn't going to happen. It's just not.
No, but I do see from my experience with nearly 60 years on the planet that the bell curve of stupidity requires somebody on the far extreme to move people on the other extreme, at least towards the middle, to some sort of moderate solution.
Well, let's go down that path. That's a beautiful thing to say. So DDT, let's go with DDT and the ozone. Those are two really good examples of kind of what you're talking about. So DDT is a remarkable chemical that kills mosquitoes. Now, where it got sideways was it made certain eggshells thinner. And so in this country, they were like, well, it's going to destroy the bald eagle, and we need to stop DDT. Now, meanwhile, in sub-Saharan Africa, you could paint your hut with DDT, put some on the hut, and save up to 5 million people in a given span of time from malaria and yellow fever and mosquito-borne illnesses. So you're saving millions of lives, but you might hurt an eggshell. And so what we found was you have DEET. It's so funny, DEET is kind of named for DDT. We don't think about that, but people use DEET. Yeah. So, right. But the eagles now, the bald eagles have done great. In fact, you see them in this. I've seen bald eagles here at Oak Island before. It's remarkable. Go to Jordan Lake, you can see bald eagles everywhere. It's a beautiful sight to behold. They're doing well. We changed. But at the same time, we are losing some folks. Maybe in sub-Saharan Africa, the U.S. government ought to allow DDT to be exported to Africa to save lives, because it's a cheap way to save lives. So there needs to be some kind of moderation in this kind of human behavior, as you would say. Those are the kind of things that we should be excited about. I mean, and down here in Boiling Springs Lakes, when people want, that's a whole other story about woodpeckers and making extremes work against things. We actually, in the process of trying to save woodpeckers, we clear-cut lots that made it less hospitable to woodpeckers in the attempt to save them, because if you found that your lot was habitable to a woodpecker, then you would never be able to live on it and develop it. So everyone clear-cut their lots. Not hospitable, you can build on it. So it was just bad policy under the auspices of saving a critter that didn't work. Actually made it worse for the critter. So we can make differences. We can make very positive differences, and I'm thankful for people who'd like to make those differences. And the turtle program at Oak Island is everywhere in North Carolina, although I think it went sideways about 10 years ago when the government took it over and people became less aware of what was going on about the nest and learning about it. But now more citizens are getting involved again, and freedom is reigning again, and people are learning about turtle and turtle nest. But it has gone a little too far with the government involvement.
But at least we have some conversations, as we had with Dan earlier this morning. The subject continues to be, or one of the caveats continues to be, our inability to have uncomfortable conversations. You can't be offensive. In his case, he's talking about a doctor who cannot talk to his patient about being overweight because speaking of obesity is offensive.
It happens. Yeah,
so when trying to speak,
we are a fat country, aren't we?
Right, and then when we try to talk
yeah.
about things like, say, infrastructure, these are going to be uncomfortable conversations where we, have to say, look, this is going to be expensive, it's going to be uncomfortable, it's going to be inconvenient, but the option is to wait until 20 people are killed when the whole bridge collapses, and that seems to be where we're headed. But until we can have uncomfortable conversations without being personally offended or affected by it, this isn't going to get any easier.
This is where maintenance, you don't confuse capital expenses with ongoing maintenance. I think we've done a terrible job in many respects with our infrastructure of ongoing maintenance. Instead, we wait until it becomes almost catastrophic and then say we need all of this massive money because we haven't been taking care of things. It's like your house or your car. If your car has a CV joint that's starting to go bad on it, you say, well, I can put that off. And then a check engine light comes on, and you say, well, I can put that off. And by the time you get to the third or fourth thing, you're at a point where the car is almost not worth repairing, and you need to scrap it and get another car.
And even in the case of infrastructure, and I would point to Grady, the guy from Practical Engineering YouTube channel, that even with diligent, consistent maintenance, steel just has a half-life of its own. It's going to... It has a lifespan, much like people do, much like birds do, much like trees do, much like stars do. At some point, there is a decay in the elements themselves, right? So as much maintenance as we've done, we can extend the life to its lifespan, but at some point, the metal itself is just going to be ruined from age.
Well, you've got concrete and metal, the two great things that make America work, right? These products, and asphalt to a lesser extent, but asphalt. It's so funny. Concrete would be concrete's a much friendlier product, and it's so funny because the asphalt lobby is much more powerful than the concrete lobby. We can build roads a lot cheaper with concrete than asphalt, but asphalt has better propagandist, I guess. And
well, it
asphalt's
also rides better
to deal with. Well, I don't know. We built these great highways with concrete, the interstate highway system.
When you see it crack in New Mexico and turn into just a rumbling...
sure, but again, can replace, too. You don't have to resurface 15 miles to fix a concrete issue. And so,
well, aside from those issues, the point being, there is a lifespan to all of this.
Heat, concrete's better. But there's a lifespan. You're right. There's a lifespan to houses. There's a lifespan to people. There's a lifespan to roads, bridges, infrastructure. But there's two things that are going on. One, you're creating more infrastructure. There's more roads being built into more areas that, luckily, a lot of them are maintained locally. And then there's giant highways that we've built that need to be maintained and sometimes expanded and added to. So there is a lot of ongoing stuff, and it is expensive. And the other thing that's happening is, remember the climate change cult that wanted all of our cars to get better mileage. And so everything that gets better mileage pays less per mile on taxes for the roads to maintain those roads and bridges. So that's where the money in North Carolina comes from. So just imagine if we did have 30% electric vehicles right now. If we had 30% electric vehicles, our roads and bridges would come to a standstill because you're not going to get money off the gas taxes. Cars are getting more mileage. How do you do that? So this is where the geniuses in government said, let's put trackers in people's electric cars and charge them mileage fees. And they haven't done it yet, but that's the idea that's out there. And I think what you're going to find is a desire by government to monitor you, me, and everyone else under the auspices of paying for roads, bridges, and overpasses, because we've got to get the people that are paying. Now, another way to look at this would be to say, let's start making our roads more user-pay friendly. In other words, more toll roads. Toll roads are actually paid for by the people who use them. So if you start having toll roads, even people that are driving those EVs and everything else, now if you did enough toll roads, you could actually lower the gas tax.
But then you run into the situation where people just won't go that way.
Well, yeah, but are they willing to go an hour out of their way? I mean, if the causeway between Wilmington and Brunswick County was a toll road, how many people would avoid that? They can't avoid that. They may choose to live in Wilmington, rather than live in Brunswick County, but they would have to pay for that toll. And that would theoretically pay for the bridges and overpasses along that corridor. So I'm not saying do that. What I'm saying is we ought to be looking at these things because toll roads, at least the user pays or chooses not to pay by being on that road. But again, fewer people on the road, less wear and tear on the road also. You can do HOV lanes, and you can have people pay. You see people on 74 that are paying to go faster. Okay, I don't want to pay that toll, so I'll stick here in traffic and watch the other people zip by that are paying an extra $4 to pay for that road and that privilege. So there's a lot. We need to be creative. We need to be thoughtful. We need to kind of test our own thoughts on the way we deal with problems. And that's how we solve problems, evolve, and become better. Animals don't do that too much. They're kind of stuck in the environment. You don't take when you take an animal and you take it out of its environment and put it in another environment, it doesn't do very well because it's by design. It's built for a given place in the world, and we are not. You watch Naked and Afraid for 5 episodes. You realize how frail and pathetic we hairless apes are when you put us out in nature. And all these people that bitch about climate change, the funniest thing that's funny as hell to me is they want air conditioning. And they think windmills and solar panels are going to give them air conditioning. And it ain't going to happen, brother. It just ain't.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. There's much left in the journey between here and there. I'll say that. I'll try to put it that
and
way.
I got to roll now, but we've got the conversation goes on. And TK, it's always a pleasure. I wish people knew the work, effort, energy that you've put into all of this. And it is amazing to watch unfold. And
tune in tonight at 7 o'clock on the YouTube and Facebook channels. You get to see it for yourself. A live stream of Voice in the Pen, brought to you by the Big Talker Network production.
And I will add, TK, in addition to that, which people should check out, you're helping artists find a path forward and get seen by whoever. It's really a neat showcase of artists, so folks do support that. Also, if you're out there and you happen to listen or happen to tune into what TK is doing here and what the Big Talker Network is doing, there's an opportunity for you. If you have an idea for a podcast, you have an idea, whether it's a video podcast or an audio podcast, and you want it produced professionally and you want to have that look, feel, and you've got something you want to say or about your job and what you do and promoting yourself, and we can package that. You can be part of the Big Talker Network. You can be part of your own. It can be put on your website. It can be put out there in social media. We have all of the tools thanks to the work that you and Andrew and Yael have done. It's remarkable, and people can be a part of that. So we're going to keep pushing that.
And it's portable, because who looks better than you in your own home? So if you're a company and you want to promote your business, we can go straight there. Well, yeah.
Yes. Anyway, but thank you, TK. I got to run.
You too. And we will talk soon. Call in anytime. And for us, we are about to... that was like a rap break. That was actually kind of cool. That was off my phone system, by the way, that came up with those sounds. Thanks again to Mr. Chad Adams. As you will notice here in a moment, we're about to dive right into Consumer Choice Radio. And you guys have a great day. We will see you tomorrow right here on the Big Talker. You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina.